Dr. Robinson, Student-Directed Parent Conferences.
Thank you. So one of our former case managers left the district and moved to Texas to be with her family, and being the doting grandmother that she is, attended what she thought was a parent-teacher conference with her grandson. Well, it turned out that the teacher wasn't even there. The student directed the conference. And so I attached, she with the teacher's permission, Cindy Walleri, who's a 5th grade reading teacher at Lakeview Elementary and Little Elm Independent School District in Texas, shared these documents. And so I just brought it forward because I thought it was just fantastic for the students to, and I know we do it in different ways sometimes with data chats and all that, but I have never heard of an effort in our school district where the student shared with the adult their academic progress. And so I just share this in hopes that maybe our CEO will share it with the principal supervisors and see if any principals want to take them up on the idea. I just thought it was fantastic. The grandmom called me just really, really enthusiastic after the experience, and she just thought it was so fantastic, and having just left our school district, wanted to make sure we knew about this outstanding practice in Little Elm Independent School District.
Yes, Dr. Robinson, we'll definitely take a look at that. I have absolutely seen that in a variety. I mean, we would have to do some training, but it's a great opportunity for kids. If a kid can express their learning gains, goals, and strategy, then they actually understand what's happening in the classroom.
Right.
And that means a teacher has taken the time to thoroughly explain the educational process. And yeah, for all of us, if we can articulate our work, that means we understand it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, a few weeks ago, the Miami-Dade School District actually decided to change high school start times, and I know this is something that I've brought up in the past and Dr. Robinson's brought up in the past. What I would like to ask is that we put forward a concerted effort from staff to really look into this. I know that there's a lot of challenges. I get there's issues with busing, and there's issues with athletics, and even the effect that we would have on traffic, which was brought up in another article from the Miami Herald recently. But I think it's worth looking into. And I've tried, the bringing it up with staff, but I think we need a team to tackle it, to at least really look into it and see if it's possible. And in my mind, if Miami-Dade, which is bigger than us, can tackle it and make that commitment to no earlier than 8 o'clock start times, then we should at least really research it. So I just wanted to put it out there and see if we could get a commitment from staff to actually assign someone to work on this.
I think I agree, and Dr. Robinson's brought up before. If you take a look at Boca High School, I think it has a start time at 8:30. So, I don't know how they work out their athletics, but it seems to work fine. That school's been starting an hour later than other high schools for years. So, we've already got, I understand the buses are the biggest issue, but there should be a way around the athletics because we have high schools I think there's 2 high schools in the district that start an hour later than all the other ones. So those issues have already been settled. So it's just basically now is a question on transportation. Dr. Fenoy, if you could take a look at that and get back to the board on, because we have discussed this for years, and there's studies that obviously show that students would do better if they had a little more sleep in the morning, didn't have to. And the other thing is, I pass kids on, I think it's Boca Chase Boulevard in the morning when I go pick up my grandson and take him to school, and it's dark, and they're standing on no sidewalks. They're standing in the street waiting for the bus to pick them up. There's no street lights, and so the high school kids that pick up on the buses in the morning are standing in the dark. So it's not a great situation anyway. So if we could start school later, it would help them as well.
So a couple of things, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Whitfield, is it that the board actually changed it or they explored it?
That we explore it. I just think
I
we
don't
need
think
to really...
they haven't made the final decision yet.
I read that they were committing to 8 o'clock, but I didn't know that they actually voted on it.
And I think what I would want to know is clarity, because the process is going to require money, a lot of money to even investigate it. And so what I would ask is that the board give us clear direction, because I'll get the team to do some preliminary work to talk about potential costs and the duration, But I would need the board to then vote to tell us at some point. They'd have to come back, once we give you that preliminary information, what we would do from there, because it would almost take an entire department to do this, as I understand.
So maybe you could come back to us with the cost of how much it'll actually be?
Yeah, we can do some preliminary work, but I think, I want to make sure that this is the will of the board before we go down this road. That's what I'm asking.
All right, so the general counsel's brought this up before, so the administration needs to have, a decision by the board, and since we're not allowed to take votes on things that haven't been advertised, and I'm going to do this even though she's going to shake her head no to me, do all the board members agree at this point that they'd like the administration to take a look at the start times for the high schools and see if there's any way we can speed that up? Ms. McQuinn?
Yes, with the caveat that the superintendent, in conjunction with you, look at how many things we have asked from staff to see where it fits in the
Right.
list of things that we've asked for.
Sure. So, Mr. Superintendent, I think is everybody in agreement that we want to take a look at this? Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I'm just having trouble with this new age method of saying that consensus now needs to be redefined, right? So, I mean, if in fact the board, I've been accused of asking the board for too many things, right? I've never asked for anything for myself. I always ask for things that I think will benefit the children of Palm Beach County or the adults that serve them. So if in fact, to follow up a bit on Ms. McQuinn's comment, why don't you just give us a list of all the things the board has asked you to do so we can see it, since apparently we're just asking for too much. Now this, and actually, whichever process the board decides to go down is fine with me in terms of whatever the new definition of consensus is. But to go back to the issue brought up, and I thank you for bringing it up again, because each time that I've brought it up, it went off into school district Never Never Land, and it spun out there and died like an old hurricane in the northern Atlantic, right? What my request is that we have thoughtful deliberation about the issues, right? And so this is a request to think. It's not a request to change anything, right? It's a request to think. And so, I mean, I could start making the list of pros and cons based on all the conversations over time. I think that that's what we're asking for now is Ms. Whitfield's discussion item. But for me, I just want to see the thoughtful process. We estimate it would require this, this, and this, and estimate, not a hard number, estimate it'll cost, $35 billion to do it, whatever. It'll have an impact on students who work after school, whatever. I just want some thoughtful process going on here. And I kind of take offense to the concept that the 7 elected people who are here to represent the folks who put us up here are asking too much thinking. I just have a problem with that. I'm going to try to play nice the rest of the evening. Thank you.
With all due respect, Dr. Robinson, I agree. I mean, when we ask for things, we'd like to get them done. I think what the administration is asking, they just don't want to spin their wheels because 1 or 2 board members want something done, and the other 5 of us say, we really don't care. So then we want to make sure that all the board members, at least the majority of the board members, want the administration to do something that's going to take time of the administration staff to get it done. So I think that's what they're looking for. Not that they want to keep us from getting information we want. It's just that they want to make sure that they have a clear idea, because there's lots of workshops that have been asked for over the years that are still on a list because there's just no time to get to all of them. So when one board member brings up an idea, I want to have a workshop, and we all sit here quietly and say, I guess so, that's okay, and the rest of us really don't care, but we're respecting the board member that brought it up. Now there's a whole list of new workshops that the administration can't get to. So I think the object is just to get some clarity so that when we give direction as the board to the superintendent, it's direction from all of us, and we make a decision. Now, I understand from the Mrs. Rico, I see her finger up, not that finger, but the other finger up, that she wants to say something. So, but I think that, since we can't vote on at discussion items, what we're looking at is maybe a change in policy so that when discussion items are put on, they're also put on as an agenda item that says, and take action as necessary, so that we can actually, when a board discussion item is brought up, we can actually take a vote. Like this one, we could take a vote tonight and say, yes, we vote to have the superintendent bring back a study to the board as to how much it would cost to put, the high schools on a lower, I think that's what they're looking for. In all fairness, they just want,
One comment.
yeah, go ahead,
I
Doc.
think Dr. Robinson made a good point that I don't think we've clearly articulated. The team recently showed me a list of projects that the board has asked for that are years old. And no one has ever come back and said, well, y'all didn't bring that back. So then is it really a priority for the board? Now that the team's brought it to me, I can see this long list that's multiple years old. So how do we then figure out what really the board really wants us to do? Yeah. Julian.
Mrs. Rico?
Thank you. So just to frame the issue, I mean, ultimately, look, these policies are owned by the board in terms of how you govern your discussions and actions and so forth, informed by certain legal aspects like the APA and Robert's Rules and Bruce Harris. So, hey, Bruce. But in an effort to comply with the statutory framework, which is the agenda is developed by the superintendent in consultation with the board. That's the phraseology in the statute. And I think that to some degree, this angst is a byproduct of the policies that we have currently that constrain board members from taking action on discussion items and workshop items. And so it was my suggestion that to unpack those two places where the board has voice and create some opportunity for actionizing them, if you will, not a legal term of art, but to create some action around a discussion item, a want for a workshop, et cetera, and during workshops, some limited action where the board can say, I want documentation that comes back to further inform future action of the board. I believe that gives the board stronger voice and clarity to define exactly what they are looking for so they can make further informed decisions, whether that's on policy, protocols, et cetera, and also gives the staff clarity on what the board is looking for. But I do think it strengthens the board's direction. Consent and consensus, which is just a word that got created out of nomenclature, but our policy currently says informal direction, and that is neither a board vote or anything, and it just creates a lot of consternation in trying to follow. And I'm so sorry, and getting accountability by the board for your requests. So it's a double-edged. So that's my perspective.
Ms. McQuinn?
Sorry, it's like my granddaughter used to say, I was just taking a breath, and I'm always in there interrupting. I just want to remind all of us, myself included, that we don't direct staff. We direct the superintendent. So it's just a reminder for everyone why we're going through all this.
Ms. Whitfield, Ms. Andrews, then Dr. Robinson again.
So the question I have for Dr. Fenoy is, could we see that list? Because I would love to have an opportunity as a board to look at the priorities again and say what we really do think is a priority, because I think we could make some decisions, the seven of us.
It currently sits in the board office. Carol showed it to me, so you guys have access to it.
Who was next? Ms. Brill? Ms. Andrews?
Thank you, and I do agree about the high school, but I want to be really clear. This past year, I had a problem with the start times that were changed for elementary schools. I already have a problem with elementary children standing out in the dark. When we have our time change, and when you're going up and down the highway and we see the children standing on Okeechobee in the dark, it's already bad. But I would think that if you're going to change an elementary school time to make the elementary children go to school early. Make sure you run it by this board. I was appalled when I found out that the Glades children were going to school earlier than most kids to the east. And I've been told by Dr. Fanoy it's going to be corrected. But I was furious, and the parents were furious. A lot of children's attendance was impacted because they couldn't get there. And that happened, and I've never missed a board meeting. So when we're talking about times, not just for high schools, but we need to look at the elementary schools. But certainly if you're going to change a start time for the schools, please let the board members know. I know that the administration, you do a lot of things and you're really busy, but don't let that happen, because when we're out in the community and parents are talking to us and we go in to see the schools and we wonder why something is different from one part of the county than the other and we know nothing about it, it's truly unacceptable. So I think that's been corrected for January. That's going to be corrected, that the schools in the Glades will not have to be discriminatory, going to school earlier than everybody else in this county. Thank you.
All right, last comment, Dr. Robinson, is Dr. Robinson's, and we have to start a board meeting at 5. Dr. Robinson?
So shall I draw the conclusion that we will be having a board workshop to discuss this change in informal direction versus consensus versus got to vote on it?
What I would like to do is propose some changes to the policy, send them to the board in a memo, and then if the superintendent, adds it as a workshop for further discussion. I don't know how else to get it in front of you, but to propose those, I think we have a couple of board policies that are coming forward for review and revision. We can include it in that.
And I would just like to follow up on that. So before staff spends so much time drafting a policy, I think that the board needs to have a conversation, obviously in the sunshine, with superintendent and general counsel about what is the problem that we're trying to fix. And I'm going to just leave it there, because I don't think that we're being clear here. Period. I'm going to leave it alone.
Can I just make sure we get direction on the item, the actual item? Consensus, direction, wherever we're headed. I just want to make sure that this item doesn't get lost.
Right now, that's what you're left with. Informal.
Yes, so we have an informal, in the words of the general counsel, an informal direction, Mr. Superintendent, if you can not spend a lot of staff time, but just come back with some information with whether or not it's feasible, and if it is, how much is it going to cost us to do it.
Yeah, we'll put a team together, see what we can come up with.
We'll try and fix this in the future so we don't have informal consensus. We have board votes. So with that said, we need a motion to adjourn the workshops. Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.